Kia ora tātou. Kia ora koutou, sorry. It's late here in Wellington. This is the first of our live streaming sessions, and I'm really pleased to be able to answer any questions that come through from people. We are starting to get quite a few questions through already, so if I don't get through your questions tonight, this will be the first of many live streaming sessions, and we'll be able to answer them at another time. Also, if you want to send us a question, please send it to stfeedback@moh.govt.nz. So the first question is, this is from Anne, how will disabled people make contact with a connector or disability information specialist if they want to discuss changing over to the new system? So on the 1st of October 2018, everybody in Mid-Central region will be in the new system. But that doesn't mean that things need to change for you. If you're happy with how your support's going, you don't need to change anything. If you would like to talk to somebody about doing something differently, there will be the opportunity to either contact us via email, via the website, phone, or you'll be able to walk into an office in a local hub that will be available a couple of days a week in places like Fielding, Otaki, Liven. And we're still working through exactly where that will be, but a long time before the 1st of October, we'll be giving people information about exactly how you can get hold of us. Another question from Anne is, will the connector liaise with government agencies such as Work and Income so that disabled people no longer have direct contact with these agencies? So what we are looking to do is we've been working with other government agencies to think about what are the types of things that disabled people go to the government agency for. If it's a transactional type thing, so where they go for a one-off type interaction, so I'm going to Ministry of Social Development to fill out a form to get a disability allowance, in those sorts of situations, we're working with the Ministry of Social Development so that people will be able to fill in a form with their connector or online with their connector, and we'll be able to work with Ministry of Social Development in the background. And that will be a government liaison person who works with the Ministry of Social Development in the background and who supports the connector so that they are able to talk to disabled people and families about all of the possible support that is available to them across government. So I have a question from Mike Pullman. With pay equity in mind, will the additional direct support funding provide more support hours for disabled individuals and whānau with increasing and or changing needs? So we're currently developing the funding allocation processes and tools, and we haven't finalised that yet. It is currently out for testing, and if anybody is interested in having a look at what we're doing there and providing feedback, you can contact us at stfeedback@moh.govt.nz and we can add you to the virtual testing group. If you find Lumio difficult, you can also contact us at that email address and we can send you the documents so that you can have a look directly and provide us feedback on that. But in terms of the specific questions you asked about the additional support funding, there is additional money available that will go into being available for support to disabled people. What people choose to use it for will be up to them. We've got a question about from Angela, who would like to know, what accountability will there be for a connector role? What is their training to be? How will their effectiveness be measured? So we're going to have, the connector will have a manager, and that manager could either be the director or the manager and who they'll be directly responsible to. And they will also have some external supervision. We're also working on an induction and training program for all new people within the teams, and that will include for the connectors. There will be a code of conduct around how the connectors work, and there will be measures and direct feedback from disabled people and families about how they found the experience with their connector. I've also got a question, has branding been decided for the system transformation prototype when it commences on the 1st of October so that it has a clearly defined and identifiable name? So as of last week, there is a new working group that is looking at the identity and branding for the new system and for the two teams within it. They've only met once so far, and they're currently working on thinking about what we need to put in place so that people understand and can see the system as one system and the two teams within it as distinct teams. We're looking forward to seeing what comes out of that working group, and as always, that will be available for virtual testing when they have proposals. I've got a question about, could you please expand on the involvement of NASK? So, as you'll be aware, and as in the Cabinet paper, there is a process that we sought agreement from ministers to go through that is called a machinery of government process. So over the next 18 months, there will be a group of people working with us like any other working group to work through and think about what do we want the organisational arrangements to be around the new system in the long term. So when we get to the final model, what would be the appropriate system organisational arrangements to put in place? And that covers everything from do we have one team, two teams? Are they in one region? How many regions do we have across New Zealand? Do we have one organisation that's a disability type commission? There are a whole range of options there, and we're still working through that. In the meantime, for the prototype, we are testing having two teams. And that's because disabled people in whānau have said for a while that they think it's really important that the connector role that walks alongside disabled people and families is separate from the role of the funding coordinators who make decisions on funding. And so that's why we're having two teams. Until there is a final decision on the organisational arrangements, we've put in something as an interim and pragmatic step. And with that, we're going to have the disabled people and whānau facing team, which includes the connectors and the network builder, reporting into the Ministry of Health. And the enable, which is the current NASK, will be where the team that is the kind of supporting team, system enabling team in the background that has disability information specialists, has government liaisons, has funding coordinators, they will report into that team. But it will be very different to what is there now in the current NASK. Anne has another question. Is the new system going to offer funding similar to individualised funding? So when people ask that, what will be available in the new system is the opportunity to have a personal budget, and that you'll have different ways that you can manage that. So you may choose that you would like to manage that as a disabled person or whānau, to have that in a bank account and be responsible for all aspects of that, whether that's employing support staff, purchasing things, etc. But there will be other options available to manage the funding as well, and that includes having the ability to use a provider, for better use of words, a mainstream provider or a universal provider, so an accountant to help you manage your support. Or you might want to use a host type provider like a disability support host provider, or a flexible disability support provider option, or you might just want to go to a provider and get them to do everything for you, or you might want to use a combination of all of those. So you'll have different options for how you manage your support. And also it will be different from the current individualised funding, because it won't just be the funding from the Ministry of Health and DSS, but will also include funding from other government agencies. Exactly what that looks like, we won't know until decisions are made in June. The other thing is that we are looking at different purchasing guidelines around that, so there'll be more flexibility about how you can use the money in your personal budget. I've got a question about how the needs of people with autism and high and complex needs going to be met. Were they consulted in the process? So currently we've got actually out for virtual testing is some proposals about how to meet the needs of high and complex clients. Now, high and complex actually covers a range of different groups of people. There's about 6 or 7 groups from memory from the virtual testing proposals, and I really encourage anybody who's interested in that area to contact us at stfeedback@moh.govt.nz, and we can either get you on the Lumio to be able to provide feedback on those proposals, or we can send them to you directly and you can provide feedback in another way. Now, the working group that was involved in those particular proposals included people who had high and complex needs or their whānau members. We've also worked directly with and had a group that has included a range of people from autism organisations and people with autism to make sure that we understand what's needed and to be put in place to make the new system work for people with autism, and particularly during the transition. And we'll continue to work with that group as we communicate more with people in Mid-Central over the next 6 months. Welcome to those who've just joined us. Just a reminder that you can send questions to us at stfeedback@moh.govt.nz, or you can use the question box on the right-hand side. I've got a question: will there be decision-making involvement for disabled people in the new system? So one of the things that we've got is a governance group. So at the moment we've got the regional leadership group in Mid-Central that has disabled people, whānau members, mana whenua, providers and officials. But also we're, as part of the prototype, we'll be testing what it would look like having a board like for a Crown entity. And so there will be a smaller group of people who are a governance group who will come from that Mid-Central regional leadership group. And we're currently working through the process about exactly how many, what sort of skills will they have, will we have any independent members, how will it operate, and what will be the criteria for selecting that. So more to come on that. I've also been asked the question, under the transformation, how will high-end pieces of equipment be assigned or purchased? For example, wheelchair with specialised seating, and that's come from Rose. So on that question, that is one of the areas we're still thinking through. When does it make sense for people to use their personal purchasing power to select something, and when are there greater benefits from buying in bulk? Either way, we can change processes to increase the options that disabled people have and to give them greater decision making over their support. But we're still looking that there are some things, and equipment and modifications is one of the areas where there may be greater benefits from buying a large number of things together. And so we're still working through exactly what that looks like, and there has been proposals about equipment and modifications that have been out for virtual testing, and we're now working through exactly what that will look like in practice. Sam would like to know what will happen for people in residential care. Will they still get the same support? So for everybody, on the 1st of October, you'll receive exactly the same support as you got on the 30th of September if you're in the Mid-Central region. However, if you want to work with us or want to look at doing things differently, you can either approach the two teams, well, in this case it'll probably be a connector or a disability information specialist, and say you'd like to talk to somebody about your options for doing things differently, or when it comes up to your next regular review. We'll also have some connectors who work in outreach, and they will be building relationships and communities to help people find out about exactly how things will work in the new system, and so that they can take opportunities that are available for them. And some of those connectors will work with people in residential care. We will also, one of the things that I think has been missing from the system to date is for people who don't have family members or involved people in their lives, that there will be the opportunity for paid support people to help them make decisions. And that's another area where we expect that there will be people in residential care in that situation. I've got another question from Anne. Under the new system, can disabled people choose which agency they'd like to provide their support? We want people to have more choices and more options under the new system, and they will have the ability to either choose from a range of providers that are there, or to go to different providers that aren't currently contracted by the Ministry of Health to be able to choose their support. Josh would like to know what work still has to be done between now and when the new system will be launched. There's a huge amount to do, Josh. So at the moment, we've just been finishing job descriptions, and one of the things that we're focusing on at the moment is to start recruiting for the new teams. And so that's sort of one of our first areas of focus. We still need to turn all of the proposals into detailed business processes and policies, and we need to make sure that these are easy to use and understand for everybody. We need to create a new website, web presence. We need to make sure that, as I talked about, that there are hubs where people can go, and so that's a place in the local communities across the Mid-Central region where connectors will be available a couple of days a week for people to go and talk to them. We need to do a whole lot of work on provider contracts, and that is, there will be some new contracts, new service offerings that we're contracting, and there will also be some changes to the existing contracts, and we're just working that through. We've been doing a lot of work on funding allocation, and some of that is out for virtual testing at the moment, and we're continuing to put more of that out for virtual testing. There is a very long list I keep going through in my head. So there's still the process I talked about before about selecting the governance group and putting that in place. There's all of the induction and training to be developed. So there's a lot to do over the next 5 months. There's also putting in all the mechanisms around funding. So that ability to be able to have a bank account and to manage all your own support, having the different host options in place, flexible disability support, provider contracts, etc. Matthew, would the current requirement to verify you support people under IF stay? That's a really specific question, Matthew, and I don't think I can probably answer that specifically, but I think that refers to monitoring requirements and about what information you need to provide. That is part of the work we're doing on funding allocation, and what we are trying to do is to make that as easy to use as possible and to reduce the amount of information that people need to give, but we haven't got to the point of making final decisions on that. So that is one that will be going out for virtual testing at some point. Nikki, will ACC be included in system transformation? So while ACC is outside of the scope of system transformation, for some people who receive disability support, they will also receive some support from ACC. And we're working with ACC to look at how we can make that as easy as possible for people. And so there are a range of things that we're working through, from everything from someone who has a short-term injury and is a disability support, so receives disability support services or disability support from the new system, how we can make it easy for them to continue to use their existing supports, but to top it up from the ACC side. We're also looking like there's a group of people who, particularly babies where something's happened at birth and it's not clear yet whether it's a covered ACC injury or where someone has a treatment injury, the idea of having seamless support between the disability support system and ACC. So you'd work with one connector through the disability support system, and they would help you to navigate the two systems and make it so it all looks like one for you. Jade, would people put their budget towards assistance cost not covered by tertiary organisations for further study? I think that comes back to what we're trying to do in this is to actually say you have the flexibility to use your disability support for what you're wanting to achieve and what's most important to you. So we are still working through the detail of exactly how that will work in practice, but if that's something that's important to you, that what we want to do is have the flexibility for you to be able to use your disability support funding in a way that will work for you and help you to achieve your aspirations and goals. Hence, I've been asked how individual assessment processes will work. Will a more holistic approach be used? So we're going away from the kind of assessment process and talking more about information gathering, so that a connector would work with a disabled person and whānau and talk to them and have a conversation and to understand what is it that they're wanting to do, what are their personal circumstances, what are their strengths, what have they got within their lives, what is the support that they need to be able to achieve the things that they want to achieve, and to try and gather information that way. But we are still working through exactly what that will look like in practice, and that's part of the information that's in the funding allocation tools and processes. And once again, I encourage you to contact us if you'd like to provide feedback on that. I have a question from Tina. Will there be support where collective groups can work together if they want? We are definitely thinking, particularly in the capability fund part of the system. So one of the things that is in the new system is funding at a regional and national level, where disabled people, whānau organisations can apply for funding to develop the skills of a group of people, whether that's disabled people or whānau. And that's one of the areas where collective groups of people might want to work together. But it might also be that groups of people want to combine or pool their support, and we are looking at how we can make that happen. Now that might be where there are multiple people within one whānau, or multiple whānaus that want to work together. And we want to have the ability to do that, but we also want to support people to think about how will decisions be made in that situation. What are the ways that you're going to work together to safeguard, to make sure that everybody's rights and everybody is protected in the process. So we are thinking through that and what do we need to put in place. But we absolutely want to make sure that there are options for people to work together and pool their funding if they wish. A question from Anne. Is there any way disabled people can find out what the amount of funding is they receive now for their current package, so that they have an idea of what basic funding will be available under the new system? So as I've said before, we're still working through how the funding allocation will work, but it will look very different from the current system. So we're much more focused on what do people want to achieve, and therefore what is the support they require to get there, and looking at it from that rather than what are the needs of the person, and going through an assessment process in that way. So I don't feel like I'm being as articulate as I'd like to be in this area, because we are still working through the detail, but I think it would be very difficult to kind of compare what you get under the current system with what you get under the new system, because the processes for getting there will look very, very different. I've got a question from Ange. When will system transformation be rolled out nationwide? So over the next 18 months in Mid-Central, we're going to be using a try, learn and adjust approach. That is because while we've worked with a lot of people to develop the design for this, we know that we haven't been able to engage everybody, and we need to try these things in practice and see if what we think will work. And what we will do is systematically go through and say, look at the feedback we're getting and see what's working well and are there still opportunities to improve. And we will make changes to the model and then roll those out in a kind of staged, managed way. At the end of that time, we will make recommendations to ministers in late 2020 about what the final model will look like. At this stage, we don't know exactly when it will be rolled out to different places, but our thinking has been about that it would be good to go to the areas that currently have demonstrations in place, so Christchurch, Waikato Bay, Plenty first, and then look at going Auckland North next, and then across the whole country. But as I said, no decisions have been made, and that hasn't gone to Cabinet for decision yet. So that will be a decision in late 2020. Matthew, would people get some advocacy support if their family disagree with their decisions? So that is one of the things that will be available in the system is the ability to have advocacy, whether that is advocacy to be able to work with a third party like another government agency, but also the kind of advocacy where I think of it more as formal support for decision making. In the system, the connector where people have chosen to work with a connector, will help to ensure that the disabled person's voice is heard and to work with the disabled person and the whānau to work through to get to a solution where the disabled person can put the things in place that they want to. But sometimes there are going to be differences between disabled people and family members, and we do want to make sure that people have access to someone to support them where that's needed. So that is part of, we've got the network builder role, and that will be looking at how do we leverage some of the existing networks for formal support or advocacy, but also how do we support people to build their natural relationships and networks within their community. And that network builder role will work more to support connectors by providing them information, and the connectors will work directly with disabled people and families. Thank you for your questions. We've got time for a couple more. And just to let you know that we will be having another live streaming session tomorrow night at 6:30 for whānau, and there will be one for providers on Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. But we'd be really interested in your feedback. If you have found this helpful, we'd like to know, because we will organise to have other live streaming sessions over the next few weeks and then over the next few months as we get to October. So I've got a question. Will there be enough money to cover the needs of disabled people? We do need to work within a fixed amount of funding, and while we have got some additional funding for direct support for disabled people, so around about 6.4 million, I think there will always be times when people think that there will be a need for more funding in the system. What we're wanting to do here is to give disabled people and whānau the decision making over how they can use the funding they've got. So it will mean that they will be able to decide what is most important to them and what will make the most difference, and therefore what they want to use the funding that is available for. We might be finishing up. One more question from Steve. Will disabled people be involved in the evaluation? Yes, we will involve disabled people in the development of the evaluation and monitoring and in the delivery of evaluation and monitoring. So for example, at the moment, we actually have a proposal out in the market to get people to do some baseline data gathering about what's happening in Mid-Central at the moment. So it's to understand what's the experience of disabled people and whānau in the current system, and what's happening for providers, what's happening for the workforce, so that we can then go back and measure how things have changed. And as part of that request for proposal, we are asking that people who are putting in proposals tell us how they're going to involve disabled people in that baseline data gathering. So we see them having a role as interviewers and being part of the team. We also have an evaluation and monitoring working group, and there are a third disabled people on that group, and they will be overseeing the development of the overall evaluation approach. Thank you very much for your questions and for your feedback. Please feel free to join us on sessions tomorrow night or the provider session on Wednesday morning. And you can still email questions to us at any stage at stfeedback@moh.govt.nz, and we'll get answers back to you as soon as we possibly can.